Thank you to Wizards of the Coast for sponsoring this video. Throne of Eldraine has been out for a little while now, and I thought I'd go over my top 10 cards of the set. Let's just jump right in, start with number 10, Realm Cloak Giant. Realm Cloak Giant is a very, very powerful card. Anytime they print what we call a Wrath type effect, they're usually pretty playable in any given environment, especially Standard. And this is no different. Of course, there is the small downside of being able to kill giants, which is most notable with a Bone Crusher Giant. But Realm Cloak Giant just does everything you want it to do. For 5 mana, you can effectively kill the board, and then later on in the game, you get 7/7 Vigilance, which is just a super good rate. So, kind of 2 card staple on one. Both very, very good. You know, Wrath effect for 5, and then a 7/7 Vigilance for 7 later on. So, number 10, Realm Cloak Giant. Number 9, Murderous Rider. This is a card that is going to see a lot of Standard play. I don't think you're going to see it too much in the older formats, but in Standard, this is just exactly what you're looking for. Hero's Downfall type effects are something that are just always useful. And again, on these adventure cards, like previously we saw on the Realm Cloak Giant, Murderous Rider is just way too good not to play. Now, there's not very many interactions with the graveyard because the creature does shuffle onto the bottom of your library after it dies, but the fact that you can kill a creature or planeswalker at a very low cost and then play a lifelinker afterwards just makes this card super versatile, super good. Murderous Rider at number 9. Number 8, let's go with another black card here. This is Rankle, Master of Pranks. You don't often see flying and haste on a black creature. Most notably, I can think of as like Skitherix. Way old card, but 3/3 flying haste for 4 mana is exactly what this format is looking for, especially with these abilities stapled onto it. Of course, you can choose any number of the 3 abilities, the 3 effects, when Rankle connects. And in a world filled with planeswalkers and wrath effects, having a haste creature like this that can not only, make your opponent fall on the back foot even harder, but it can also push you ahead with its ability is just something that's very nice. And again, we'll be seeing a lot of this in Standard for the coming year. Number 7, let's go with Wicked Wolf. This is a creature that didn't look like it would have too much impact in Constructed when it first came out. This seemed more like limited fodder. But the more and more that we see these food decks take off, the more that I think Wicked Wolf is going to become a key component, or more so of a key component than it already is in these styles of decks. Not only is it good versus Wrath effects, of course, if you just sacrifice a food, you make it indestructible. It also gets larger. Add that to the point that you can also just kill your opponent's creatures with it when it first enters the battlefield, and you have a creature that's just very well costed, and again, is going to take over the game pretty easily in this heavy green meta. So Wicked Wolf, number 7. Number 6 is a card that pairs extremely well with the Wicked Wolf, and that is the Gilded Goose. Now, with Llanowar Elves having rotated out, we don't have very many 1 mana good options in the format, and Gilded Goose is just by far the best of these. Now, obviously, this creature is not super relevant by itself stat-wise later as the game progresses, but this helps ramp from turn 1 to turn 3, and we'll talk about what you can do on turn 3 if you don't already know, but later on. But Gilded Goose is just everything that a green deck wants, more specifically right now, the Bant decks and the Simic decks that are looking to kind of develop a early lead and bolster their food resources as well. And so I think Gilded Goose is going to be another card that we see in Standard for quite some time at number 6. Number 5, we have Emery, Lurker of the Loch. Now, Emery hasn't made too many splashes in, say, Standard right now. I know there are some good combo decks, or rather, some combo decks that would like to be good right now, but I don't think they're tier 1 quite yet. But Emery has also made some impact in older formats like Modern, for example, where you can bring back things like, Arkham's Astrolabe, etc., etc. So this is not just a Standard card. This is a card that definitely goes back into other formats, and I'm expecting to see Emery, time and time again as people who want to do some nice combo nonsense continuously find ways to abuse this card. Emery is a really good one and easily top 5, I think, from this set. Let's go to number 4. Number 4, another green card, and that's a common theme we'll find from Throne of Eldraine, is the Questing Beast. Now, again, these are types of cards that really punish planeswalkers and slower decks, as any creature with haste, similar to Rankle, is just going to, apply the pressure and get around sorcery speed removal spells. Questing Beast definitely feels like the most pushed of these varieties. 4 mana, 4/4, Vigilance, Death Touch, Haste, but then it has a bunch of other text that nobody ever remembers about. In fact, I didn't even know it had the legendary, until a little while ago. It's kind of crazy. This card does it all. It applies pressure to the opponent and to their planeswalkers. It has haste. It's hard to block, which was super relevant when Field of the Dead was still a thing. Field of the Dead recently banned, so Questing Beast doesn't have to worry about that so much anymore. Not that it did anyways, but it's just an amazing card. So many abilities, and a card I expect to see in Standard for quite some time. That's Questing Beast at number 4. Number 3, and similar to Emery, is another card that has cross format potential. In fact, not even just potential, but usefulness, I guess I should say. That's Once Upon a Time. This is a card that just smooths out your draws, and not only that, but lets you dig deeper into more specific cards in a pinch, right? This card is amazing. Anytime a spell you can cast for free, you should obviously take a look at it, and Once Upon a Time just does everything you want it to do. Like, in this format, in this Standard format specifically, you can look for lands, keep a hand maybe that only has 1 land, even 0 lands, if you have a Once Upon a Time to kind of dig for that. Later on in the game, though, it's not a dead draw, right? You can look for one of your more relevant creatures, and with a bunch of adventure creatures now in the format, you often get more than just a little bit of value in that. Plus, Once Upon a Time is starting to be played in older formats as well. Again, once you take a look at a card, see that you can cast it for free, or at least initially, the potential there just rises exponentially. So don't expect to see Once Upon a Time in, no games in the very near future, because it's going to be everywhere. Once Upon a Time is my easy number 3. Number 2 of Throne of Eldraine, and I'm going to go with Fabled Passage. It's just, anytime you print, quote-unquote, a fetch type of land, it's just way too powerful, and something that we're going to see time and time again. It just smooths out your draws, enables for, fixing of all types of varieties. And even though this particular fetch might not see as much play in older formats, it's still going to be a standard and staple for quite some time. Number 1 should come to no surprise. This is a card that has been making waves most recently in Standard, but even in Modern and Vintage as well. This is Oko, Thief of Crowns. Honestly, this card is just way too good. Planeswalkers have certainly warped and defined the game for quite some time, ever since they were printed, I guess. But especially these type of Planeswalkers. Oko comes down on 3 mana, which you can play on turn 2 with the Gilded Goose, as we were alluding to earlier. Starts at 4 loyalty, but can then immediately uptick by 2. And most absurdly is that the +1 effect is the way to protect it, is the way to apply some pressure. That definitely feels like an ability that should have been a minus, because this is just a card that does absurd things. And I was mentioning, how it's not just broken in Standard and taking over the metagame there, but people are starting to play it in Modern and even Vintage. One of the more recent Vintage lists running Oath of Druids. Think about that. Oko and Oath of Druids in Vintage. You turn your opponent's Moxen into a 3/3 elk, and then you get to animate use your Oath of Druids. And so we're seeing Oko in all of the formats currently. This is a card that is busted beyond belief, and my easy number 1 card from this set, Throne of Eldraine. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this look at my top 10 cards from Throne of Eldraine. Again, thank you to Wizards of the Coast for sponsoring this stream, and expect to see a lot more of these type of videos in the future.